Alright, what's up, YouTube? What's up, all my people? I want to give a special shout out to the viewers, subscribers, you guys. This little channel has grown to 106 so far, I believe. I checked it before I left work, which is awesome. I didn't think it'd make nowhere, but anyway. So yeah, I've noticed that a lot of motovloggers, they kind of give you some backstory on themselves, you know, where they come from, or jobs, or you know, crap like that. And I figured, and after I thought about it a long time, and my story is really different. I know I'm not the only one with this story, but I had second thoughts on whether I should release this or not, because it's very personal to me, but I feel it could be helpful to somebody out there that's probably walked a similar path and maybe hasn't come to terms with it. Oh, so far you're interested, huh? Well, we'll start off by, you know, my story growing up. How about that? Because basically what I do for a living as a job is I'm a technician. I work on cars. Not a whole lot to talk about there. But everybody who I've ever come in contact with in my entire life, here, you know, they ask the same question. Hey man, where's your mom? Where's your dad? You know, just the questions that come up in everyday chit chat, you know? Especially if you've been like a friend of mine for a long time, you're gonna have questions. So when I tell them my story, they kind of get a little bummed out, and they're like, man, that sucks, but it is what it is. It's my story, and I have had many years to come to terms with it. So here it goes. For anybody wanting to know my story, here it is. We'll start off by saying my dad met my mom in a really kind of crazy way. My dad worked for the city. He did construction in the afternoons, and he ran a trash truck. He drove a trash truck in the mornings. Alright. He met my mom, who didn't have a job, never worked. And shortly after they met, my dad found out that she was strung out on drugs. Crack, to be exact. Well, as soon as he finds out that she's been strung out, he finds out that a little bun's in the oven. Me. I'm in the oven. Try to keep it as light as I can because it's kind of a bummer of a story. But they stay together. He tries to make it work. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't like that kind of shit. He works all the time and just wants to take care of his family. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I come into the world and they separate, and he gets me every chance he can get, but he starts to find out that my mom is abusing me as a child, as a little baby. And I'm talking, and a lot of people have corroborated this story because it was hard for me to believe it growing up, you know, that anybody could do this to their child, which blows my fucking mind. But basically, she wants to get high with her twin sister, and so she gives me Perigorkin. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a narcotic. It's way back in the day. I don't even believe they make it anymore, but it basically knocks you the fuck out. It's like taking a bunch of Percocet and going to sleep. She would put that in my baby bottle, and then when I'd fall asleep, she would put me in the closet, and she would get high with her sister. Well, my dad tries to get me from her, and it was a no-go, until one day they were trying to talk, I guess. He was over there at her place for some reason, and he walked in, and he heard me screaming to the top of my lungs, and he thought, and she was in the bathroom, so he thought that, you know, she was just taking a shower and that I was just pissed off because he could hear the shower running. And it turns out that I didn't shut up, and so he opened the door or he knocked on the door to try to get her to let him in because it was locked, and she wouldn't answer, and so he kicked the door in to find her, my mother, holding me bare ass naked at about a year and a half old, under a scalding hot shower. So he wrestled me out of her arms, he rubbed me down in Vaseline, and he did something that he never really did before. He smacked the living shit out of her. But honestly, who can blame him? I don't believe in hitting women, but wow. So anyway, so they separate, and he's at work one day, and he gets a phone call from her saying that she was just going to set me out somewhere and be done with me. And she didn't want to be tied down by a man and a baby and this, that, the other. And he begged and begged and begged for her to give me to my grandmother, his mother. So she called my grandmother, and she told her the same thing, and my grandmother went and got me, and then my mom went down to South Carolina, and she robbed a man, the little man, at a gas station for his money. And she came up here, she bought her some crack, she got high, and she committed suicide in her twin sister's driveway with a .38. Fucked up part about that is after my mother's body was taken and all like that, my mother's twin sister decided that it was a good idea to drive the car, clean the brains out of the inside of the car, and drive it. About 2 months later, my dad was on his trash route, and the brakes gave out on his truck, and he was coming down a mountain with no brakes, a full load, and he was killed on impact. So my grandmother, bless her heart, she raised me from the time I was 2.5 until I left home when I was 18 years old. And it took me my entire life, pretty much, my entire childhood, my teenage years, to make peace with everything you just heard. I was angry a lot. I was pissed off. I didn't care. I said I didn't care if I lived or died, but looking back, I guess I did. So it really molded me into who I am now, though, because I have 4 kids of my own, and I would do anything for them. Anything. Like anything. I will never let my kids know the pain and the emotional crazy crap that I've had to deal with my entire life. So if you I know I'm not the only one that has a story similar to this. There's been plenty of people growing up without 2 parents or drug addiction in their family. The moral of the story is you gotta keep fighting. You gotta keep your head up, and basically just endure, because it will end. You eventually will be able to make peace, as much peace as you can, because I haven't come to full peace with it, but I have learned to deal. It doesn't bother me like it used to. I can think about it without bawling my eyes out or flying into a crazy rage, So yeah. Rocks. Oh, air. It was getting so warm. But if, dealing with someone with drug addiction, it changes people. And I've never heard of drugs changing anybody for the better. It's always drugs changed someone for the worse. They did shit that they would have never done before. I don't know anyone that knew my mother before she was a crack addict. And by the way, she was so cracked out that I was born with it in my system. So I'm as normal as can be. Keywords there, as can be. Y'all have seen my other videos, like Hey You and all that shit. I'm a little loopy sometimes, alright? But thank God it could have been a lot worse, and yeah, I'm blessed because my story has really made me who I am. Everything that I've went through, like, it made me responsible. It made me more caring. It makes me more respectful of stuff, you know? Like, my grandmother, who was retired at the time, came out of retirement and at 50 some years old started working 3 jobs until I was old enough to move out. My grandmother is now 81 years old and she's tired, you know? And she gave up her golden years of like her retirement, because she worked her butt off as a nurse for like 30 or 40 years. Like, she deserved to retire and plant flowers and go on vacations, but the cards life dealt, you know, I thank God that she was the person she is, because, you know, without her, I don't know where I would have ended up, even if I'd still be alive today, you know? And a lot of people have said, yeah, but if your mom was still alive, you'd probably be just as bad on drugs as her. And you know what? You're probably right on that too. I would probably be someone different than I am today. But anyone who abuses a child deserves to be put behind a big truck and drugged down a dirt road until there's nothing left but the rope you tied them up with. And that's the way I think about it. If you can mistreat a child like that, you're a sorry human being. So that's my backstory on that. There's plenty of other stuff. I have lived quite the life. I should write a book. I've been told that a few times by a few close friends. But, you know, it made me who I am. And that's all I'll ever be, is who I am, you know? But I have a wonderful wife, and I have 4 beautiful kids. And you know what? Life is actually pretty darn good. It really is. Because by all means, I should have grown up to be a homicidal lunatic that goes on killing sprees and, you know, killing little animals and like torturing animals and shit. Like, that's what should have happened to me. But for some reason, I grew up to be pretty well adjusted, you know? I didn't have a guy in my life until I was a little older. And I've known my wife since we were kids. So her dad and one of my uncles was the only 2 male role models I ever had in my life. But hey, I'm doing all right, you know? Just got to keep your head up. You got to keep walking. And if you're holding a grudge, you cannot live your life with a grudge. Give up the grudge, people. I mean, drugs they're shitty. They take a lot of good people and they twist them and mutate them and change them into something that they were never intended to be. So I have a lot of other stories that I could tell you guys, really could. But that is my backstory there. If y'all want to know any more of my backstory, which I promise you, it's not all that sad. That's just where, you know, that's where I come from. To me, that's what made me who I am, you know? Like, a job didn't make me. That made me. Hey, a cruiser girl actually fucking waved. Are you serious? What? Is it my fucking birthday? Holy shit. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed, please go and subscribe if you like my videos, you know? It just lets me know that you guys like what you're seeing, and I'll keep making them, you know? Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and yeah. Even Facebook friend request me if you want to. I'm a nice person. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later, man. Peace.